I'm the one that's doing the filming here. This is John Lear standing in front of the bus station just to verify that it was the station. This is a picture of the Greyhound bus station in Las Vegas, where the locker was that had the stash behind the lock in the front of the door. Well, this is the bus ticket from the Greyhound station with the sketch made by Connor showing exactly where the locker was, where we could open the locker with the, we had the key, and he was showing exactly where we would find the locker to insert the key and get this package of pictures behind the locker. So we went to the bus station together to get the pictures. When we got to the bus station with the key and go to the location of the bank of lockers that key would fit, all the lockers in that bank have different numbers now. The whole bank of lockers had been changed. So that we don't have a key that fits a lock there. So we went to the people that managed the facility there to find out what happened to that locker, and he says, that's a concession. They change the lockers every once in a while. He said they must have changed it. I was arguing that I had clothes and money in there. What happened to the clothes and the money? And they said, they gave me the name of the concessionaire. We went to, yeah, this is me inside at the place where the locker should have been, but it's no longer there. And we're perplexed. We're going to go to the contractor and find out what happened to the locker. This was key number 424, and all the 420 numbers were removed when we got to the bus station, and this was only a couple of days after Connor left there, well, within 3 or 4 days after the time it was put there. Taped up to above the locker on the back of the front door with masking tape by Connor. And when we never did find the locker bank to look in it. The contractor said he didn't know where it went, which we knew was a lie. And the contractor said he couldn't tell us where it was because he didn't know. Which seemed very strange. He knew where all the other lockers were. We went to the concessionaire and asked to have the contents of that, to look in that locker number, and he said, I don't know where we put it. And I said, you don't have a record? He said, we change lockers occasionally. He says, for no reason at all. He says, we just changed the locker. He said, sometimes people lock things in there and go off and keep the key, and nobody can use that locker forever after that unless we change the lockers and change the locks. So we pick them up every once in a while. So we assumed that they had picked up that bank, and that when they opened all the lockers, they may have found the package of pictures. Anyway, it all sounded suspicious, like somebody else already knew that there were pictures, that there was something about that locker. We never did find out what happened to it, never got to see it again. He had no idea why that locker was changed, had no idea where it was, they didn't have a record of it, and there's no way he could find it. He said sometimes they get bad and we just bust them up.
Interesting coincidence, eh?
Yeah. Anyway, John Lear was involved in that, and nothing happened, and we couldn't find the locker.
Have you worked with John in any other fashion on any other cases?
That was the only time where he was directly involved, and we were sorry that we couldn't get the locker, but we couldn't think of any way we could find it after a whole afternoon of trying to pursue it. They kept telling us about each stash being picked up. There were 2 left, the last I knew. And after his meeting with his superior, and then he was going for another stash which never appeared. He didn't come back from that, so I am inclined to believe that his superior got the other 2 stashes back for the government, and then he disappeared and we never saw him. Well, first of all, I don't think many people are going to believe it because there is a very active and powerful government program to persuade disbelief of all of this. So the few people that will believe it are not going to be strong enough to take any action to do anything about it. It's probably going to continue as it has been for the last 40 or 50 years, and probably for into the foreseeable future. I don't see this making any big change. I felt that he was sincere in his feelings that if he had a fatal disease and was dying, it had been administered to him by his own superiors in a sterile environment, and it was to take him out because he now knew too much, and he had to be terminated. And I suspect that this is what happened to the rest of his Confederates at the same time. The government does not seem to hesitate about numbers of people involved. They could take any, and they even mentioned this in one of the final notes. They told him, remember Malakia. I said, what's Malakia? He said, that's another situation where the Delta team took out an entire busload of people to get one man. I felt at the time that Connor disappeared that he sincerely believed what his superiors told him, that he probably was dying of a fatal disease. He did not want to know when, but he knew that that's how they take care of their own, and he was fully prepared for it. He didn't want to go, and he was going to bring the house of cards down with him. That was my sincere feelings about this whole thing. He really wanted to get even before he was gone, and I don't think he succeeded in doing it. And it seemed to me that he was very sincere about this, and that's why he was trying to give us the information he was. I sat on this story for 9 years, waiting for the hook, waiting to see whether I was being baited or not, and nothing ever happened. And so an event happened in Italy where Colonel Steve Wilson was visiting relatives there, had gone to a UFO conference to see what the world was saying about UFOs. And he identified himself to the Italian sponsors of the conference, and they persuaded him to give him a deathbed statement to be released after he died, the cancer that he was carrying. And he did, and when they published it in their magazine, I noticed that he had correctly described the 7 ships at level 2, and he had described the bodies in the cylinders at the same level 2 of S4, exactly as Connor had described it, which gave me the first serious confirmation of the information that I'd been sitting on for 9 years. But on the strength of Steve Wilson's revelations in Italy deathbed statement and the images painted from his verbal descriptions by the staff artist in the magazine, I felt that he was confirming in substantial detail what Connor O'Ryan was telling me, and that they really wanted to bring down the house of cards if they were being terminated. And now they're both gone, so we don't know for sure, but the house of cards is still there as far as I know. The people went. I think that he probably was given a disease. He wouldn't go to a doctor to get a verification on it. He disappeared, and we have had no contact with him since, and that's now been 9 years. So I feel that what he was telling us was essentially correct. I think that he probably is no longer alive. I know that my phones were listened to all the time, my telephone calls, and even my computer. So there was not a lot of secrets here. He could easily have gotten in touch with me again if he wanted to, and he never did. I think the worst may have happened, and it's not over yet, because now it appears there's somebody that after some other people be responsible for some of those terminations. And it may keep coming up again and again as peripheral evidence on something even bigger than this. There's a whole hierarchy of people that are involved in the operations carried out at Area 51. And it's a small percentage of the population of our country. But there's no way to get control of them, no way to get to them. They are operating independently on their own authority. And there are no checks and balances on them that I'm aware of. They can be very harmful to a lot of people. I don't think that we're going to get control of the situation, because I think the situation has had control of us for 40 or 50 years now, and we're not about to change that. It's growing. I was aware of government executions or assassinations internally when I was in the service. And that was 40 years, 50 years ago. So it's been going on for a long time, and it's part of our national policy, I think. I don't think it's going to end overnight. I don't think it's going to change policy. It could cause some heads to roll, but I don't think it's going to change policy. Remember, way back under the other presidents, Bill Casey who was the head of intelligence.